I'm super excited to be here. Even though I'm the only woman, I think that's an honor in itself. Today we're going to have a chat about knowing your players, engaging with them, and keeping them around to grow your game. Because in the end, it's always about your players enjoying the game that you've made for them. So but before we kick it off, I'd just like to introduce myself a little bit. So my name is Marion Finnigan, and I am a Senior Business Development Manager for AWS Game Tech. I've been in tech for nearly 20 years now, 3 of which I've worked in the games industry, and I joined AWS about a year ago. I always say that working in games happened by accident, but it was literally the best accident in my life. Just before any of the questions come around, I'm going to answer that one right away. My all-time favorite game is Super Mario Bros. 3. That just shows you how old I am. But it's actually Zelda and Witcher 3 that I've been putting most of my gaming hours in lately. Really good games. Right, so enough about me though. With no further ado, let's look at a guide to LiveOps in the cloud. So the games industry has seen an exponential growth in the past 20 years, right? With the last year or two just being the tip of the iceberg. Some would suggest that all that growth of gaming is linked to the growth of connectivity, so the internet, which gave specifically mobile and online games a massive boost in the last few years. It had also led to a significant shift, not only from brick and mortar retail to online shopping, but also from games as a product to games as a service. From a packaged good that is played for a while to a service with applications that we engage with over and over again. The most successful games of the past few years are mostly in that area of games as a service, and they have been on the top list of most successful games for quite some time. So those are the examples where LiveOps comes into the picture, which basically means taking care of the game. But more fundamentally, it's about what happens in the game and how players engage with it. It's about providing great experience that evolve over time and motivating players to keep coming back and have them long-term engaged, making sure that the game becomes a part of their lives. LiveOps isn't anything new though. So even early MUDs or multi-user dungeons used some of the same techniques as today to keep their content fresh and their players happy. But it's only been recently, especially with the success of games like Fortnite and Clash of Clans, as you've just seen, that embrace LiveOps, that there has been a lot of talk about it and attempts to give it a better definition. So here it is, our definition for LiveOps. At its heart, it is a philosophy that a game will change over time while it's live, as opposed to having to release the sequel and the expansion pack or a new version of your game just to get new content to your players. Games using LiveOps, they live online and often start their lives as a download or a website rather than in the box. While it is important to acknowledge the success of the Fortnites and the Clash of Clans in this world, when we talk about LiveOps, it's just as important to acknowledge that you don't need to be as big as Epic or have as many players as Fortnite to actually get results from using LiveOps in your game. So Butterscotch Shenanigans, for example, they have recognized that the games industry is a very crowded and competitive place. They use LiveOps practices to gain a competitive advantage by using backend automation via website APIs and serverless compute to help them locate and build daily challenges for their players. So if something happens regularly on a schedule so that the player always know when to look for something new, they will keep coming back. And Butterscotch Shenanigans does this on a daily basis, and that's how they keep their engagement high. Past that very basic definition of LiveOps being a philosophy, there is a few other things that you find in pretty much every LiveOps game. The game is designed and developed with LiveOps in mind. So building an online game requires you to embed LiveOps from the very beginning. Whilst the game is still in design, there is a very strong community building going on around the game. So the success of a game can rise and fall with its community. It is also very common for live events to be hosted in games. Look at the example of Fortnite. Data and analytics are absolutely crucial to make decisions about what to update and what content to deliver. In most cases, it is live data that needs to be tracked and that is having the most impact on the game. And last but not least, there is content delivered constantly, often even without without updating the game client binary. Something new every day. So enough about the philosophy now. Let's talk a little bit more about the tech behind it. So as I said, LiveOps begins long before your game is launched. And the sooner you think about the technology aspects behind it, the more fun you're actually having building it, especially when it comes to player analysis and the build release cycle. So we'll be looking at several different technologies today to enable LiveOps in the game. And with a very strong focus on 3 specific ones. So firstly, implementing analytics to help you with the design, game features, and monetization strategies. So this is actually the part where you get to know your players. Secondly, developing an integration and delivery pipeline that enables a fast deployment of all of these features. And lastly, delivering those updates quickly and efficiently to your players, making sure that you're bringing new content to them as close as possible. It might help to think of LiveOps as a cycle. It starts on the top with the design of a feature or a game. This is then developed. And once it's ready, it will be delivered to the players. Feedback is the force that drives this cycle. So feedback from analytics is the basis for creating new features or fixing problems, which then leads to developing or making changes, which then are deployed. So I think you kind of get the idea of the cycle. There are the areas that cloud can be most beneficial to your game are delivery and feedback. So those are the ones that we will be focusing on today. So if you want to know your players and grow your game, collecting data, listening to feedback, and analyzing the information that you have is absolutely crucial. It builds the foundation for making all of the decisions about what to focus on when you make changes, like adding new features or fixing problems. And this is where analytics comes into play. Analytics allow you to capture information on all aspects of your game, from what players enjoy doing in your game, to how they spend money, to how healthy your servers are, and so on. So games today are generating more data than ever. So analytics becomes a key part of the LiveOps process. Collecting information and making sense of it is the driving force behind fixing problems before they even become a real issue, and coming up with compelling new ideas for your players to keep them engaged. The data can also help you understand where players are actually spending money, what part of your game they find most interesting, or what part they struggle the most with. And this all can help you tailor messaging and game features to different player cohorts to improve their experience and keep them engaged. So in a bit more detail, here are the reasons why you should be using analytics for games. You can use data analytics to create more engagement in your game, as we said. It can help you to improve your game design and optimize your gameplay experience by revealing how your game is actually played and what to enhance to create a better engagement. So as an example, you could use telemetry data of player deaths on a heat map, which could identify opportunities for you to improve your level design. Another very important reason to use analytics is obviously monetization. It depends on the business model of your game, whether it's a free-to-play game with microtransactions or a one-time purchase game. But in any case, you can use data analytics to help you monetize better by understanding things like, are the players that play the most also the ones that spend the most money on in-app purchases? Maybe there are specific experiences in the game that make your players more likely to spend money on certain in-app purchases. Fraud and player investigations is another great use case for analytics. It's detecting anomalies, finding unusual behavior, maybe even using machine learning to detect possible cheating. I mean, the cheating can really disrupt a game experience, and it will ruin the enjoyment for other players and for the rest of the community. So you want to make sure to be able to identify any fraudulent behavior quickly and put a stop to it. Last but not least, we have things like performance and error reporting. Analytics can help you improve your game infrastructure and understand metrics like CPU utilization, memory utilization, and you can better understand your peak usage time so that you know when to scale your infrastructure, or understand latency, which impacts player experience, especially for those latency-sensitive games like first-person shooters. So analyzing error trends can help you identify those, remediate them, and then prevent them from happening again in the future. We have developed a game analytics pipeline solution that puts all your data in one data lake and opens up opportunities to leverage AI and ML services to pull actionable insights from that data. The CloudFormation template automates the setup and the provisioning of all necessary services for a really easy deployment. So for anyone who's new to CloudFormation, that's a service which helps you to model and set up your resources so that you can spend less time on managing them and more time focusing on your game. Before we jump into the next service, I just want to give you a quick overview of Happy Analytics customers. So, for example, Montreal-based developer Behavior Interactive has celebrated 12 million players in 2019. They have introduced a state-of-the-art data pipeline using AWS. Jelly Button develops and publishes free-to-play interactive mobile and web games, and they're using Redshift, which is Amazon's data warehouse, and Amazon Kinesis for real-time analytics. Sony Interactive Entertainment have built its EV fraud system as a big data platform to aggregate transactional activities of users. So this is just to name a few of them. So we've just discussed our analytics pipeline. Now, let's look at some of the other services around database and machine learning that allow you to collect and analyze that feedback that is so relevant for your game. As outlined in our example, monetization is really an important part, and that includes the economy of your game's community, all of the in-game transactions. And believe me, players just love that. Understanding how your drops affect that economy is absolutely critical to both maintaining a healthy in-game economy, but also managing your financial expectations. So whether those drops are farmed or bought, that doesn't matter. It is quite a business when you have to, farm boss X to get Phoenix Peaks as a drop and then buy Miracle Water from the in-game store so that you can create the sort of hacking so you can farm boss A to get all their clouds. Okay, I think you probably get the point here. Well, all of these relationships can start to get really hard to track as they start to cascade. One creative way of solving this, and please ignore the Mona Lisa and the Louvre on that one, is by mapping out all of these items and their relationships to each other. So when you're tweaking numbers, a query can easily show you the results across the entire economy. So you can build your own, or you can look at Amazon Neptune as a way to let AWS manage the infrastructure for you while you manage the game data. Natural language processing, NLP, is another great way of understanding critical feedback about your players. And that's without having to go into every single piece of information that you have. It includes references about the language, about people, about places, and it can even capture the sentiment of a feedback, which allows you to get a great pulse on how your community feels about certain events, changes, updates, or the game overall. Recommendation engines are another thing. They can help you analyzing what one person is playing and buying and is making recommendations based on this behavior. I think we're all very familiar with that sort of concept. But that doesn't only apply to in-app purchase recommendations. It can also be applied in other areas of the game, like quest lines, for example. Hey, looks like you enjoy a stealth approach. Other stealthy players stuck this quest line out to the end, so maybe you should give it a go. Or you can use it to point players towards items that can enhance their performance. So if you don't fancy building this on your own, you can use Amazon Personalize and a managed service which handles all of the hardware configuration and the maintenance, and it provides you with a very simple API to query against. Right, back to our LiveOps cycle. I do like that one. It's time to take a look on how cloud can actually help you with frequent and automatic deployment. So the deliver part of your LiveOps cycle. And one of the biggest challenges is the ability to deliver new features to players as quickly as possible. Not only do new features have to arrive quickly and reliably, but they also need to be delivered in a way that optimizes cost and maintains security in a way that your player hopefully doesn't even notice it. So continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD, pipelines with GitOps is a very effective way to improve games, to fix problems, and to deliver new features throughout the development lifecycle as quickly as possible and with little to no server downtime at all. So building continuous integration and continuous delivery mechanisms into your process from day one can save you headaches, and it keeps your players engaged from the start, rather than making them wait as you kind of stumble through retrofitting your process. So one thing that really helps speed up deployment is keeping the amount of updated artifacts to a minimum. CI/CD creates intelligence and automation around your build process so that when you push that build button, you don't just create the build. You have that build exactly where it needs to be so that the players can get at it. And you're only delivering what's actually been changed. So one of the main issues that we've heard from customers about continuous integration for games is, for example, the size of the games engine, right? Which is somewhere between 6 and 11 gigabytes, and depending on the engine that you're using. And every time you're making changes, you're moving gigabytes of files just for the engine alone. Whereas in reality, there's no need for this. Well, unless there is an update to the engine. So AWS can help you to decouple the two. So it enables you to only take the changes, to only make the changes that happen in your game, and deliver those automatically to your players. So pipeline automation also helps you to reduce errors from your process. So since you're not constantly manually copying files and moving things to multiple destinations and so forth. So what can CI/CD do for your game? As I already mentioned, the first element is to increase the game feature velocity by only pushing features as soon as possible to build an immersive and ambitious experience for your players. GitOps allows you to use familiar tools like Git to manage updates and new game features without having to know the internals of Kubernetes. So since deployments are managed through pull requests, any platform nuances that host the game are abstracted. Another benefit is streamlined games operations. As with any other type of software, game players expect stability and reliability. You automatically gain an audit trail of who did what and when to your cluster, ensuring stability of the game server host. And since access to game server clusters and other infrastructure is limited, security is vastly improved. So deployment permissions can be managed through AWS IAM if AWS Code Commit is chosen as your Git provider, aiming for consistent and standardized workflows. So be sure that you're building CI/CD in from day one. It can be as simple as having a tool like Jenkins running the build process and depositing your artifacts in the right targets, or you can consider using AWS Code Pipeline, a fully managed CD service that helps you automate those release pipelines. It automates build, test, and deploy every time there is a code change, which lets you deliver working updates to your players quickly and efficiently. So back to our lovely LiveOps cycle. So LiveOps aims to make the player not have to sit and wait for content. Watching the download percent meter grow is really one of the worst things for a gamer. Ideally, they don't even know that the content has changed until they actually discover it in the game. So your players want to download any updates and use them as fast as possible. And this is where Cloudfront comes into the game. So the closer that you can get the data to your player, the quicker the binary and data downloads are going to be. So Amazon Cloudfront is our fast content delivery network, or CDN, ensuring high speed, secure downloads of game data to your players and automatically finding the endpoint that is closest to them. CDNs work by grabbing data like web application data, video files, game download files, and APIs from one central location, delivering it to the customers globally with low latency and high transfer speed. So it's always quickly available from wherever the data is accessed. Cloudfront is directly connected to the AWS global infrastructure with more than 225 points of presence, mostly edge locations, in over 47 countries and 90 cities, and this is expanding rapidly. The benefits of Cloudfront are fast, scalable game downloads, routinely delivering multiple terabytes per second peaks globally. The use cases that we come across are using WebSockets for chat-based functionality, as well as global content collaboration among developers. Security at the edge is a really big benefit with Cloudfront, especially as games are targets for distributed denial-of-service attacks. So with Cloudfront, you automatically get AWS Shield Standard that provides default protection for DDoS attacks. And if you're using AWS origins, such as Amazon S3 or Amazon EC2 or Elastic Load Balancer, you don't pay for any data transfer between those services and Cloudfront, and that helps you optimizing your cost of your application and games. Again, here a small list of gaming customers that already use Cloudfront. We did actually mention Epic Games before. They were using AWS to deliver Fortnite to more than 200 million players around the world, and they perform analysis that help Epic Games improve their game. Right, back to our LiveOps cycle, and let's finish with one more service that supports delivery and deployment. So, had we started from the very beginning, I think probably Amazon EC2 and autoscaling would have been the first services to mention. Crucial when running live events in your game. You could consider running your own servers, obviously, but remember, when you're working with LiveOps, you're dealing with huge spikes in usage, especially when you host those games. So if you go down the own your own server path, you'll have to make sure that you have enough servers lying around to actually handle the increased demand. And quite a good number of those servers probably won't be doing much after the events are done. So the cloud-based approach, where you can spin servers up and down elastically based on demand, can be a great way to provide capacity while saving money at the same time. Right. So I'll leave you with a bit of a summary, or maybe even a few tips for what it's worth. So first of all, size does not matter. So whether you're Epic, Butterscotch Shenanigans, or somewhere in between, LiveOps will bring huge benefits to your game experience. Secondly, do it early. Avoid the headache of having to retrofit LiveOps into your game. Make sure that you plan for it from the very beginning. Think about the tech behind it. As we said, LiveOps begins long before your game is launched. And the sooner you think about the technology aspects behind it, the more fun you're actually having in building the game. And I can promise you that that is one of the biggest conversations we have with game developers when they said, I wish we had thought about this earlier. And last but not least, there is no shame in asking for help. So if you don't have the time or if you don't have the resources, just simply use a partner. We could help you with that, finding a partner. So with that, a genuine thank you for joining my session today and for having me. I really hope that it gave you a good overview of how cloud can help you with LiveOps. And if there is any questions, don't ask me. No, joking aside, would love to chat. You can also ping me on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email, or whatever. But thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for sharing those informations. I do have a quick question for you. I'm very interested on the data engineering side of it. So my understanding, we can collect data on the data lake.
Yeah.
And okay, and then so on the features of AWS, so we can use a Glue as a crawling tool to filter or category those data, right?
Yes, so probably best to ask a solutions architect on that one. But the way I understand it is that we've got AI and ML tools specifically that allows you to pull certain queries on that data lake and get you the information that you need on a regular basis.
Okay, cool, yeah. And then we do have the CloudFormation template that to provision those services, use it like, for example, as infrastructure as code.
Exactly. So CloudFormation helps you to so this is basically templates that you can deploy easily, and it helps you to not making you think of how am I going to actually work in the cloud. It helps you with how do I actually run my game, right? So that those are meant to actually help you with getting rid of all the admin in the back, all the architecture of it.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those information. Yeah, will be like is a seamless deployments, and utilizing also the CI/CD tools with it, and to be like, as you said, is a LiveOps. Yeah. Appreciate those information. It's pretty useful, and I learned a new thing from you today.
Thank you very much. Well, that was the whole point, right? So if anyone's got any more questions, as I said, happy to be available via email or on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Marion. Thank you so much, Marion. It's really a pleasure to host you. And yeah, we're up to the next session with Joseph from Unreal Engine and Epic Games. So see you in a few minutes.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. See
you.
you.
Okay, bye.